You're a startup founder. You think your product is amazing and feel like more people should be buying, but the road is long and slow. It feels like you're stuck. There's always one thing I ask startup founders. Have you talked to your customers? They almost always say, heck yes, we talk to our customers all the time. But what I find is they're either selling or trying to improve their product. These are not customer-focused conversations. If we can get curious about our customers, then we can uncover critical insights that will help us build to the next round. I'm Anna Firmenov, and welcome to Building with Buyers, a show about startup growth where I'll explore how customers help startups build to the next round. Aditya Vempaty is the VP of Marketing at MoEngage. Aditya, welcome. I've known you for a while on LinkedIn. I think this is like something that I say quite a bit. I've known you for a while on LinkedIn, but now finally I get to see you virtually or see you in person. But it all started on LinkedIn. So great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Anna, and love your content on LinkedIn, especially focusing on the customer first and talking to them. I think that's how we've stayed in touch and interacted, engaged with each other's contents, because I think we share a common passion around the customer and keeping them the focus.
I think we do. And so we will be talking about the customer today. MoEngage is a consumer engagement platform. It's used by 1,350 plus consumer brands globally. And you're able to really personalize the consumer experience throughout their entire life cycle. So that's MoEngage. I didn't realize how large it is. $180 million in funding and 869 people, if I'm not mistaken. So a fairly large company at this point. And so I'm exploring the role that customers play in helping companies build to their next level of growth. And I don't have to convince you, Aditya, of that, right? It's that they have a pretty big role. I do think people don't stop to consider just how important their customers are. And so I'm always bringing it back, like through my content. And I know you do that too. We have to like keep reminding people how important customers are, not just because they're important because you need money, right? It's a business and they'll pay you and then but beyond that, for our business strategies and for insights and for thinking through our go-to-market strategy. And so instead of chasing the net new all the time, bring it back to customers and understand that they are your moat because they're unique to you. And so how can you better leverage that idea? So first, before we get into it, can you tell me more about your team? What's everyone doing? Because it's probably pretty sizable. I get folks on here like I have a team of 2 on the in the marketing department. I get folks on here that is a pretty sizable team. So what's your team like?
Yeah, it's interesting, the structure we have. So MoEngage, as you alluded to, is a fairly large enterprise in terms of, not saying enterprise as a business, but like as a company. And we're in the range of 80 to 120 million ARR. I can't disclose the exact amount, but that's the range.
I appreciate disclosing the range.
Yeah. As long as I give specifics, we're okay. And you can edit whatever you edit, right? But US is the fastest growing market for us. And some of the customers that we have, right, I can say Kayak, Turo, Foxwoods, Poshmark, SoundCloud. These are like fairly well-known household names to an extent. And from like a team aspect, the reason I give the larger picture is we have a unique setup where all my direct reports for the region live, like for the US, are here. Then we have support structures from India. So my content person has direct reports in India. My demand gen person has direct reports in India. My events person, she has a report here instead of in India because events is a unique beast. But then my design person has reports. She's based out of Brazil, actually, and she has reports in India too to help support her. And so we structure the team that like you have people regionally that understand the culture and what's going on. And then your support system is coming from the central teams in India. And so that's how we've structured it. And the part that's really unique, I would say, that it creates some, I would say, challenges in understanding the culture nuance for those in the central team helping us. But at the same time, it allows work to be done more rapidly because they're 12 hours ahead. So things get done when you go to sleep. When you wake up, things are done. So it's unique in that sense too. But that's how the team is structured. So I have about 5 direct reports and they each have 2 or 3. So the team's like 15, 20 people.
15, 20 people in the marketing team.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what are the specific roles on the marketing team?
So the specific roles, the way it's set up is we have a ops system, marketing ops. Then we have a web ops. And then we have a content team. And then we have, I would say, demand gen. But the way demand gen is done is we set up like every country region has its own demand gen owner and they all roll up, but they're their own owners as a result.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so the central team support them in what they need, but every region has its own.
Okay. Very cool. With that understanding and the fact that you guys are kind of like US based, but also a lot of the team is in India, one of the challenges that I run into quite a bit with like as companies are getting bigger is how do you steer the ship and get buy-in for things like that are pretty strategic, for things like positioning and messaging, and get buy-in from everybody in such a large organization? Like, what's been your experience? How do you do that?
It's interesting, right? What I've realized in like at MoEngage and how fast we scaled, I've been with the company for like 2.5 years. There's something like the founders are engineers by heart, right? They're like super smart, went to IIT, etc. But one thing like that I've realized in working at MoEngage in past companies, I think like you have to harness, like you have to understand how your founder and CEO thinks about the market. And here what I've realized is my CEO like understands marketing is needed. But what I oftentimes he doesn't get is how that shows up, but he knows it's needed. He knows that big bets work out and he's a believer in big bets and knows marketing is needed. So if you understand the profile of what your CEO and co-founder is, then you can steer the ship accordingly. And so here, as you say, how do you buy in when you do large scale programs with positioning, et cetera? I often like start out making a big bet, but that's like not for the entire company, can be like isolated to running it for 3 to 6 months. And an example is we did the customer engagement book. The copy right here, like this physical book, Adapt or Die. It's a pretty big.
I saw that. Yeah. How many pages is that?
It's about 118 pages.
Wow. And that's with like a bunch of different folks that were part of writing it, right?
That's right. 13 authors across 9 different companies, out of which, funny enough, none of them are MoEngage customers.
Oh.
We had partners in there and we did that by design. We wanted to get the distribution out. And that's why like a bet like this, I talked to him about it and he's like, yeah, okay, I'm down. Let's see it. Let's see how it rolls out here. And it's not like a crazy bet, but it's a decent bet to make. And once we started seeing how people were getting behind it, how it was resonating, now we're like shifted a lot of our marketing strategies into making bigger bets around this. Like one thing that we did with this is we had an entire theme for the last 6 months, which was customer engagement, adapt or die. And so we had the customer engagement book come out. And then we did a pre-party, then we did a pre-launch, then we did the launch at one of our partner events. And the partner was an author also as well. And this is where sometimes being lucky means you're good enough to get lucky. The keynote from the CEO at the partner event was adapt or die. And we launched the book with them at the same event. And so everyone was like, wow, okay.
Oh, that was through luck? That wasn't actually orchestrated? Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And then that ties into like we did the summit and our summit was Customer Engagement Summit, Adapt or Die. And so we did this in our region. And that's where I was like, cool, it's working. And then I was like, all right, all the other regions, you need to start thinking this way. And what that did was it was 2 things. One, getting that buy-in once we saw like how many books were sent out, the response, how many people were sharing. It was clear like, okay, we have to shift strategies and think this way. And the buy-in came once the CEO saw it, everyone saw it, okay, they're like, all right, we got to shift how we do things. And like, it's easy to say success begets success. And I'm at large scale companies, I want to say like, that is not true. You need to first, I would say like when I'm pitching it to CEO and everyone else getting the buy-in, before even like you put a brief out there, regardless of the company size, at least for me, like I always socialize the concepts. I always talk about this, what it is. Then what I also do is get this is where the customer aspect comes in. I actually spend time with customers.
Tell me more. Yeah.
Exactly. I actually spend time with customers pitching them this and prospects and audiences and asking, what do you think? Would you do this? Is this something that you would want to get behind? funny enough, audiences will never say no, but you can tell when it's lukewarm. And when you dig in, you'll see why it's a no. But like, it's never no. It's lukewarm or yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I've noticed also in like hearing customers. And so we pitched the book to a few people, got the responses like, okay, this is something that works. But the real crux, the next level de-risking was when we got the authors on board, we wanted to make sure it was something they'd want to share, not just content wise, but art wise, because we wanted distribution baked in. And that was the pitch externally to all the authors. Like, hey, these authors are part of it. People you admire, like Scott Brinker, are part of it. And they're like, oh, okay. And so that worked from de-risking. Then internally, the de-risking also happened was we had names like Scott Brinker, but we also said, look, there's distribution baked in. All these authors are going to share and they're going to be part of the book. And so that alignment internally and externally, okay, I got it. You're focused on distribution. You're focused on people that are not our customers, but audiences, but that will be part of the book. And that's where getting that buy-in for this helped. It was I de-risked it by getting customer feedback. I aligned it to the strategy that we wanted to drive more distribution in the region. And then it was like a no-brainer, right? Who's going to question if the customer is like, yes, I want to be part of it. Yes, this makes a lot of sense. It's not opinions anymore. People can say yes or no. And we had people in the org detract and they're like, I don't get why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, I hear you, but here's what a customer said. Here's what a prospect said. Here's what another prospect said.
It's the best way to get opinions and assumptions out is bring the customer voice into it. I found that to be something like when I ask this question, people bring that up. Well, I actually just brought people bring their customers. Somebody was telling me that they bring their customer to like a repositioning launch meeting. Because that you have to steer the ship, right? You have to get buy-in and everybody's got to march to the same beat. And so they actually would bring their customer to this meeting so that anybody that had opinions or questions or whatever, well, let's ask our customer because that's not me. It's not Aditya's opinion. It's actually somebody that went through the purchase process, bought our stuff, and is continuing to use it and seeing value. Let's ask them, right? And granted, it's one person, but in B2B, I don't think you need like 100 people. You just need the few, right? That really map back to like who your ICP is and like what is that perfect fit and understanding where they were at when everything clicked and they decided to purchase and go with you.
You nailed it. So that's getting that alignment. And that's where de-risking campaigns and getting buy-in gets so much easier when you're like, here you go. This is what they said. This is what I talked to them. Here are the notes.
These are the exact words and phrases that they used, right?
With the world of AI now, it gets easier than ever with transcription services, right? And ChatGPT to put that out there.
Totally. Yeah. You just have to make sure that the tool you're using isn't switching words and phrases to something else because it logically makes sense, right? I have to double check that, right? Because even if you feed it the recording, sometimes it doesn't take the actual words that were said during the conversation, and that is awful.
The fun parts with hallucinations, I think maybe we're detracting, but I find it hilarious. So we did our team meeting and I have a recording device from Limitless and I put it there so we don't have to take notes. And when I ask it to summarize, it says the funniest stuff, hallucination. It'll say, blah, blah, blah said this and blah, blah, blah disagreed. And I have my team review the notes and the team's like, I didn't say that. I did not disagree. Like, what the heck?
See? Scary. Totally made up. So you have to be careful. The best thing is to have the person there. Bring your customer to that meeting and have them there to back stuff up. So what about, have you ever had to like steer the ship in terms of something? Your example was great because it's like you got buy-in to do this big bet. And first you had to like de-risk it by checking like, is this going to be meaningful enough? Will people get behind it? Will our target audience get behind it? And so, but what about when you need to get the rest of the company aligned on something like positioning and messaging? Have you ever had to do that? Or did you, when you started at MoEngage, was everything kind of like clean and neat and organized and the messaging was perfect and you didn't have to touch it for 2.5 years?
So I've had to, at MoEngage, we're probably like going to start doing a repositioning here. It's going to be starting to come up.
Oh yeah? What gets you to realize that you guys need this? What got you to this moment of realization?
Yeah, I think the big thing is just like the shifts in how people are thinking about technology, thinking about marketing technology, especially in the consumer space, is making us we have the foundation still in place. It's not like we're still going to be a customer engagement platform. That's not going to shift. But how do we approach that really does change things, because the introduction of AI, introduction of when to use AI, not use AI, like how our customers are wanting to learn more, wanting to educate themselves, and wanting to know how others are thinking about AI and not thinking about AI. And so the repositioning isn't so much like, oh, we're going from the category. It's more of what we're finding is because things are shifting so quick that you almost need to think of your positioning on like a 12 to like 15 month basis, where it's not a company level change of positioning, but it's what value you're going to give to that customer in that time frame. And everyone says they're a customer engagement platform, whatever in our space or whichever category you're in, Amplitude with product analytics, that's not going to change. That high level is not going to change. But what is the mission for the next 12 to 15 months is what we're finding drives a lot of engagement and a lot of purchasing, being included in the purchasing aspect. And what we're hearing a lot now is it's not so much everyone needs to use AI. It's not that, oh, people are not sure where to go for AI. What we're hearing more is like, hey, when does it make sense to hand over to AI versus keep a human in the process? When is it too much? And a lot of people want to understand that balance. And also they want to understand how to measure AI. How do I get the ROI of AI? And some people have views where at our summit, someone said like, that's like asking what's the ROI of Wi-Fi? That's a no-brainer. You're not going to ever ask someone that. It's just part of life.
I never ever thought of that. Like, what's the ROI of AI? That'd be nuts to try and figure that out. We already have trouble figuring out the ROI of marketing channels. And now you're asking us to figure out the ROI of like a tool that we're using. How come we don't have to figure out the ROI of every tool we're using?
Exactly. And so that's where now we're stepping back and looking at it and be like positioning, like, how do we make sure that buyers know that in this space, customers and everything, they can come to us as a resource, letting them know when it makes sense to use AI versus having more human in the loop. And that doesn't mean don't use the tool, but how do you position the product and the tool where it's not a black box? It's not stuff just happens. It's, hey, you have one hand on the wheel and there's cruise control when you want to use it. There's autopilot when you want to use it, but you're still in charge and you know how it works if you want to know about it. And we're finding like that's where, and you're like, yeah, how's the positioning and changing stuff work? That's the next 12 to 15 month mission of the company positioning. You have your high level category positioning, but then you have your mission company short-term positioning, which I think changes more than people want to admit. If you're smart enough to see what's going, not smart enough, I would say, if you want to de-risk your company, then every 12 to 15 months, it's just going to shift because new tech comes into play. For us, we're consumers, right? How we buy, what we buy, our taste will shift. Like,
I wanted to tell you that what you're talking about perfectly matches to this book. It's backwards for you, but it's called How AI Changes Your Customers. And so I think that's what you're alluding to. Like the thing that stood out to me when I just talked about your positioning of MoEngage is most of the companies that I read the description has AI powered in it or has AI something in it. And you know what? It was actually kind of refreshing not to see that in your small description. But I get the fact that you also want to understand how AI is changing people and how you're part of that change, not separate.
yeah, and better for worse, right? We're gonna have to talk about AI. It's gonna have to be in our company descriptor. I'm gonna say that right now. But how do you talk about it? And not that it's AI everything. It's just I'm hearing more from talking to our customers that people are like, I'm sick of hearing it's AI everything. And I need another way to look at this. I get you have AI, but tell me what it means. Tell me what it means to me for my job, what it means for the team, what it means for my audience. And that's what I say about positioning, our short-term positioning. We're going to have to shift next 12, 15 months. You're going to see something different come out in a little bit here, where it takes those elements into account and starts working with our customer and our audience to get into that and think through.
Hey, it's Anna, host of Building with Buyers. I started the show because I found that customers play such an important role in business growth, but they're often overlooked. We're so focused on net new. But the thing that makes you unique is not your product. There are so many companies solving the same problem, and they have customers too. The thing that makes you unique is your superfan customers. That's your moat. Most positioning and messaging is guesswork. I'm a customer insights and strategy advisor, And I help my clients by interviewing their customer superfans and translating those insights into clear and compelling positioning and messaging that specific people care about. So you get deeper engagement with customers and prospects, increased inbound to demos, better sales conversations, increased word of mouth, and closed deals. If you're done guessing, stumbling along, and want to be more customer obsessed, reach out. I'd love to help. And now back to the episode.
So how do you get everybody to actually then mobilize? Because you've got folks in the US and you've got folks in India. So that's really how do you make sure that people are actually using the agreed upon positioning? Do you have a method? Do you have a meeting? Who does it come from? That's really what I'm trying to get at, because I'm telling you, it's a challenge for a lot of companies.
Oh, I'm not saying we do it well.
Tell me why you don't think you do it well.
Well, one off, right? It's unique in the structure. Back to our team a little bit. The product marketing team actually doesn't sit in marketing.
Oh, where do they sit?
It actually reports to the CEO directly.
Oh, why is that?
They set it up that way because this was before my time. The CEO wanted to make sure that product marketing, they weren't in the same area, but they weren't also in marketing. He wanted to make sure it was independent as much as possible. Because oftentimes, if it's not, product marketing just regurgitates what PMs say instead of thinking about storytelling, thinking about how to position this for the customer. They just regurgitate things. It's the greatest tool in the world. It works so beautifully. It's so amazing.
I've never heard of product marketers sitting under the CEO. But what about you? If you're VP of marketing, who sits under you? You've got the demand gen folks.
Demand gen, marketing ops, web ops.
But do you feel like there's enough connection between you and product marketing?
So yeah, and that's the interesting thing here. I'll tell you why. There's actually a product marketer, a lead that sits under me. That's just the US. And then I have one for the UK. So those local ones sit reporting to me. And so that way they take the campaigns in account. So they get the PMM stuff, but also use the campaigns and spread the message. So that is still there. From a region perspective, the PMMs are localized. So that's where the storytelling is different in different regions. And that's where we can get the messaging across. And so on the central side, as we work on the website and update, the central team does that, but we also influencing, hey, this has to be different. This has to shift. These things need to change.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. And that's the part, everyone goes through it. We're part of this mission right now too, is how do we do more of the storytelling? How do we talk more about the workflows? And that's where you're going to see a lot of stuff shift and where you have to spend the time to do it. But that's where it's going to come from, the customer feedback and this repositioning and getting that feedback and doing it at scale. As you're saying, how do you make that happen? And that's where I'm we don't do a great job. We're going to get better at it, but we don't do a great job because the regions have to think about their audiences, but also think about the top level of messaging. And that's where it gets tricky. And that's where some regions, I gave an example, we have a lot of huge India base. In India, they actually just want to know feature by feature and do feature comparison. They don't do storytelling, value selling. In the EU and US, we do. And we buy big stuff value.
It's more important. Why do you think that is? We're all people. Stories resonate with people. Why is that?
Yeah. So I'll go in the India example because I asked that question too. I mean, I'm of Indian origin, but I didn't grow up there. And it goes back to there's 1.5 billion people in India. And so everyone thinks, this is going to sound hilarious, that everyone is trying to screw them over.
It's not hilarious. It's every country, every culture has their own unique stuff. So
yeah. And so in India, when you have that many people and being successful is scarce and it's takes a lot of effort, you think everyone's trying to screw you over and get to the top. And even in buying products. And so that's why they're oh, if you're telling me a story, you're telling me a story. I don't want to believe you. But if you're showing me the features and how they compare, it becomes a very feature comparison matrix for that region.
Very logical. And then I don't feel like you're taking advantage of me with some story versus in the US and the UK, we want to hear stories because we're it's not connecting otherwise, right? I need the story in order to have some kind of a connection because we don't have that baggage of people wanting to screw us over. That's so interesting.
It is because the socioeconomicness now fuels how you go market in certain countries and how you don't market in certain countries. And so that's where the storytelling isn't as perverse in India. but we want to make it as more perverse in US and EU, because here's the irony of it. The annual contract value for us is significantly higher in the US and EU than it is in India. And so you can get the same amount of customers, but your contract values are much higher here because your buying power is more than in those regions. So that was like one interesting thing working at MoEngage. Like, I was like, oh, wow, this is like a life lesson I didn't know I would learn.
That is so interesting. I worked pretty heavily with the India team when I was at my last company where I was at, Elevate K-12. They had a significant group of folks out of India. So probably it was like 50-50 back when I was there. So, but I did not, but they were more like support, right? Support for everything that we were launching in the United States. So we didn't really have to think about like how to sell in India necessarily. But this is fascinating. I had no idea that there was that nuance. Now I know. Thanks for sticking with me through that whole, like, I'm so curious how you approach positioning and steering that ship and getting buy-in and all that. One thing that does come up again and again is that the buy-in has to start from the CEO, right? The top level. If you don't get the buy-in there, forget about the rest of the company because it has to come from the top. Otherwise, nobody has to take on that positioning. Nobody has to use it, right?
Funny thing I will say is the buy-in actually doesn't just happen. When the CEO will say it, you have to have the courage to correct someone when they're doing it wrong, but not make them feel like you're insulting them. And you have to do it. This sucks, but you have to do it publicly. Not insult them, but like on a call, if they say XYZ and you're like, no, it's this.
But you have to actually like not insult them while you're correcting them. That's tough.
And I mean, you have to like, and that's why I always refer to them like, hey guys, we're trying to position ourselves this way. We can't say that. Let's be mindful. It is not this, it's this. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's not a big deal, but let's just internalize it. And it's repeating that and constantly holding to it. And it's kind of like management also, right? You're a leader, not because of how you can execute. You're a leader because you set the standards and you ensure people can get through those standards and support them in getting to those standards. But that happens through repetition of the standards. You have to keep echoing that this is the bar. You got to meet the bar. Yeah.
Even if it's your boss. Yeah, totally. I think the other thing that's helpful is having a place where everybody can see it. Because if you just say it and people don't see it, then it gets lost. It turns into other stuff. You can't always catch it. But if it's, for example, on your website, then everybody can see it. And that's why no matter what people say, like websites are dying, whatever, the website is a great place to get all the words and phrases and the meaningful stuff down because it's there, it's visible, it's public, and you can always just bring that up and say, remember, we talked about this is the phrase we're using. This is how we describe ourselves, right? So I think that is also a good solve. Let's talk about customers a bit more. We did a bit, and you are bringing them into your marketing efforts. How do you incorporate customers as part of growth at MoEngage? Like, sounds like you do incorporate them as part of some research efforts. And also when you want to take a big bet, you're checking in with them, like de-risking. Anything else that you're kind of consistently leveraging customers for?
So my entire view with customers and the org also, and I push them forward, is constantly thinking about how do you make them the heroes? You're not the hero. You're Yoda. This is Luke. How do you keep Luke, and don't turn you into Luke and Luke becomes Yoda, right? You're not the hero of the story. And I love you asked that question because like, how do you drive the growth? Is you got to drive their careers forward. I know it sounds really contrary, but like for you to get growth, you got to make sure that you drive them forward. And I say that in the sense of when you do a case study, when you do a win announcement, don't make it about yourself. Make it about them, what they were trying to do and why they wanted to do it and how they're thinking about it. And you're just here to support them and along for the ride. And that's where growth that really helps is when you position them and what the challenges they had and why they wanted to solve them. They look good for recognizing the challenges. And then when you call the challenges out, it automatically links you to the challenges you solved for them, even if you don't say it. People can infer that. You don't need to say MoEngage did XYZ for them to accomplish this and this. No, it's, hey, they're trying to tackle this. This is how it was hurting their audience. And this is their goal. And this is how it's getting in the way. And they felt they had to solve it to do this. And we're lucky to partner with them to help them solve it. And that's it. And the rest of it is about them. And so that's one in the content you put out, that mindset. Second is how do you give them opportunities to further their careers, regardless of where they are? Is it like talking to other execs in the same industry or adjacent industries? Is it giving them a shot to maybe be at conferences you're speaking at that give them notoriety. And thinking of it that way, not just be like a fireside chat, sit with me. We often try to be like, hey, do you want to give this talk by yourself? Do you want to talk about this topic? You're going to plug in MoEngage. I know you are. I don't have to worry about that. Right? Because there's reciprocity. If I give you a shot at something that's going to further your career or you get access to something and you remember who did that, you're going to mention them.
It needs to be the right person that's looking for that, right? The person that wants to get on stage, the person that wants to be kind of in the limelight. And they're out there. You just have to find the right person.
You got it. And you nailed it, actually. And it's not going to be every customer. So the thing is, I think people think every customer has to follow this path. Some customers do, some don't. You just have to know what that customer's superpower is that they're willing to use. Some customers of ours are phenomenal. They'll come to conferences, they'll talk, they'll be in the booth, but they don't want to do anything on stage. But some customers are like, I can't do the booth, but I'll do webinars with you. I will do case studies. I'll do video testimonials.
How do you get them to do all that stuff? Sometimes I get clients that are like, oh, you want to talk to our customers for customer research? I don't know. We don't really want to bother them, right? How do you approach that conversation with customers to get them to do this partnership with you?
For us, we try to position it as it's not for us, it's for you. And we genuinely mean that when we say that. And the reason I say genuinely is, hey, I'll give an example. We just did a Foxwoods casino announcement this week. And if you look at it and you go on LinkedIn, you'll see it like, it wasn't positioned as a MoEngage announcement. It was positioned as Foxwood tackling their challenges, their casino resort, thinking ahead, thinking about the vision, how they want to make the guest experience great. And even that announcement was done with Foxwoods design. If you look at it, you'll see Foxwoods, you'll see MoEngage, but you'll see a picture of Foxwoods Casino. And how do you, again, make them the heroes? And those subtleties make them feel like they're at the center of the story and they are the story and we are not. And that's the part in positioning it that way is that, hey, we want to tell your story and what you're trying to do and how you're thinking about it and you're leading the pack. And some people will say yes. Again, like I said, it's not a slam dunk every time. But what I found is when you position it that it's about them, it's going to resonate much harder. And also if you make it easy, this is the key part. Most people don't make it easy for the customer. They make them jump through hoops being like, oh, we want you to post. Well, instead of saying that, hey, here's a post. Why don't you edit it and tell me what works for you or doesn't? Make it easy. Hey, here's a calendar invite for when we want you to post. These little things may seem tactical, but strategically what they signal to the person is I'm going to take the load off of you so you don't have to put that much effort outside of just the bare bones.
Do you have a program like that where customers are posting or no?
We do when we do win announcements. You can see that if you go to MoEngage on our handle. But for us, what's really key is we actually don't care about the handle posting. We care about the customer posting. And what we also do is tell them like, hey, we're sharing your story. And guess what? Tag MoEngage. And we'll also spend money behind it and boost your post.
Okay.
On LinkedIn.
Okay. So you do something like that.
Yeah. And the reason we do that is, again, we're like, hey, it exposes you. People see who you are. And also it gives us the benefit as well. There's equal benefit. There's value exchange that is for both sides. But people are going to say no. And I'll give you an example. Like we'll ask like 6 customers and maybe 3, if we're lucky, will say yes. There's going to be no's. And that's just the nature of it. And that's why you ask 6 and not 3 and hope you get something.
Nice. That's great. So sounds like there's some customers involved in when you're doing some research. There's customer involvement when you're doing some content creation, partnering up there. And also maybe at events as well, like partnering up with them when you're doing events. Okay. Or conferences.
They're in our booth. They're in our booth talking about how we help. That does so much more than anything we can do. We've seen it. Now at every event, we need a customer. That's how we think about it. We'll fly them out. We'll pay for you. We need you there in the booth. Just talk to them. We don't even give you you don't have to give a talk. Just talk to people when they come up.
Instead of us, have the customer talk. Yeah, that's great. Kind of like that example I shared where the customer needs to be at these critical company meetings because it's not you. It's more believable when it's coming from the actual buyer. Great. So let's talk about AI a little bit, if that's okay with you.
Of course. We would not be a podcast if we don't talk about AI.
I know. I leave it for the end because really I want to focus on customers and customers that impact on growth efforts. But AI could be a part of that as well. Recently, I've been kind of intrigued by platforms that, and I don't know if you use anything like this. I don't know if you've used Winter, for example, for testing out like messaging, positioning with not buyers, but people in your target market?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it. I've heard of it, but I haven't tried it out. And I think like these are things I'm looking for because I'm going to jump into it. Like, cause I literally like people who are not customers and customers. There's like a set, like my goal, I think, let me take a step back. My goal this year was I need to have 10 to 12 people that are my ICP, regardless if they're customers or not, regardless of who they have as vendors, that I can text at any time.
Text relationships. Great.
I'm going to say this. You don't have a relationship with someone if you're not texting with them.
If you're not texting, yeah, that is not a relationship. Yeah. Those parents that you meet at the blacktop by your kid's school, that is not a relationship. You need to have text basis.
You do. I'm just saying and the reason I go back to that is that's how these platforms, I've seen a few in the past, and it's been very much like they'll dole it out. They'll get feedback from their audience that's like there. And it has been like very much set as a stray instead of actually giving us signal. It's given us a lot of noise and taken us in different directions because we're not directly connected to the person. And there's something about being directly connected to the person where you text them that they feel so valued that you're willing to take their opinion because they respect you and what you've done with them or done for them or engaged with, that they'll give you a more honest, deeper, qualitative insight. And the AI platforms like Winter and all this stuff, I haven't used them, and now I'm going to go use them, see how they compare.
Well, Winter isn't actually the AI platform. I don't know. Maybe they're repositioning themselves because everybody is. But at this point, I don't think they're AI powered yet. They're actual people on the other side. So they have a group that you get access to. You pay Winter, you get access to all these people, and you can actually say, here's the landing page I put together. Does this resonate with you? What would you change about it? Real people. The AI stuff actually is now there are synthetic people. So they're not real people, but they're based on real people. And so now you can have access to hundreds of people that are not real, but based on real, and do the same thing, like do qualitative research interviews with these synthetic users of your platform, supposedly, right? They're not customers, but they're based. And so these companies are saying that there's like an 85 to 95% match because they actually do test with real people. What if we ask these same questions to real people? How much of a match is there? Is there a gap or is there a match, right? I mean, I don't know because I don't have access to this data, but they're saying that it's 85 to 95% match, which is mind blowing because it's synthetic, right?
I know, but here's the thing. I'm going to challenge this on this is where AI to me, I love AI, but drives me nuts. That 5%, that 15% is what makes someone great versus someone mid. As the cool kids say, that is the difference, in my very honest opinion, that if you know the nuance of that industry, because you've talked to them, pick that up, that AI will not pick up because AI will not look for nuance. It will look for platitudes and large surface area covering.
I agree with you. And that's why I'm slow to jump and use this stuff because I want the real human connected conversation because I'm looking for those little blips of like, wait, what was that? What was that they just said? That was interesting. We need to keep like exploring that because that is a use case we haven't heard of before. So there's patterns that the AI will probably catch and like regurgitate through these synthetic users, but there's like the weird stuff that it won't catch. And there's the emotions that you won't have access to, right? That you need.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. There's one example that highlights the AI shortcomings, even now. And this is something that's happened in my career. Earlier company I was at called Unit 21. It was a risk and compliance company. And one of the things was we were looking to sell into financial services and fintechs as well as credit unions. And this is where AI, prime example. We went in with positioning and positioned ourselves as real time to fintech and positioned ourselves as real time for capturing fraud at fintech as well as credit unions were real time. And worked with AI, worked with the PMM. They made positioning and we're real time. We allow you to do check fraud, ACH transfer fraud, fintechs. Yes. Same with credit unions. We go to fintech and they're like, cool, what's your like window for real time? And we're like, oh, 15 minutes. And they're like, cool, that works out. Great. Go to credit union. Hey, what's your real time for fintech, for catching fraud for ACH or bank? 15 minutes. That's not real time. What do you mean? Real time is 10 seconds. And you're like, what? And that is where that nuance by industry separates credibility in an instant or loses it. They laughed us out of the room. I mean, they like smirked and laughed and they're like, 15 minutes, they're gone with the money. What do you mean 15 minutes? But AI thinks it's the same.
Yeah, that's real time because you forgot to ask, what is real time?
But we would know what real time is if you didn't understand the nuance of that industry and spend time with the customer asking, hey, what does real time fraud mean to you? And this is where that, even if you're at 85% or even 95%, that 5%, AI will not catch this. Because as you said, if you don't prompt it to.
Right. Totally. And so I agree with you. Are you using AI in ways that because this is kind of what's scary about it, right? What are we missing? Where are we creating more mediocrity if we're using it? What are you hopeful about and where are you using AI right now?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hopeful is, well, I think I should paint the picture of maybe like in the next 12 months, we're going to see more samenism. The great samenism is already starting and you're going to see it. What I'm hopeful is that people realize the samenism and they'll start thinking, how do I not be same? And the cycles happen constantly. And I'm hoping AI, people who use it and use it effectively realize you don't need more AI slop or whatever, but it's more samenism. And how do you make it more to your voice and what you think and how you think and spend that time training it. And I'm hopeful people start realizing AI isn't just you dump stuff in and expect an output. You have to spend hours training it. You have to give it guides. And how I use my AI is I actually have guides for everything. I have guides and those guides come from me recording and talking and saying, here's my voice, analyze this, break this down about how I am and how I think and what do I do. This is a meeting notes. What I say in the meeting, how do I think about the meeting? Now make me a meeting guide that is for our planning session. Now every time we have a planning session, I upload the transcript and have it take the planning session and give me insights and be like, you're missing key points. Go deeper, go deeper. And then I'll like save this as the template. Next time I need all this. And what people forget is AI is like a car. You have to take it for maintenance. You have to service it. You have to take care of it. Otherwise it will, as we said, hallucinate and do things that you're like, what the F just happened? And people forget that. They think it's one and done. And I hate this, but it's like they look at it as a checkbox that they need to do to move on with their lives. And people assume that's good enough because it gets their job done. And so you go back to it. That's where I'm hopeful that doesn't happen. I'm hopeful people spend more time on it. And the AI tools I'm using, funny enough, I use Riverside FM for stuff too. And I think their video editors are pretty good. And I use ChatGPT and Gemini. And my team, what we're trying to do is we're not sure where a lot of these AI tools fit in. So what we've done is how can we do things that makes it easy for sales to access information without having to come to us? And so what we do is we have an LLM where we took all our content and put it there and they can search the LLM. Google Notebook LLM, we put it there so they can look up all the content. They're like, hey, I'm looking at a quick service restaurant who's spoken with us. Can you tell me what QSRs we have quotes from? And they'll bring up quotes from our summit, some events, webinars, etc. So we have that there. Another thing that we do is the lead PMM in my region, she's spending, I would say 50% of her time every week talking to prospects and customers. We're taking all her stories and putting it into an LLM that sales can search. And so we're trying to see how we can get information out to people quicker, where it's self-serve, where it's contextual, and like ChatGPT, like they can ChatGPT themselves for information. And they don't have to wait for marketing and be like, where's this? Where's that?
Did you just say your lead PMM talks to customers and prospects 50% of their time?
Yeah, she just started about 6 weeks ago. But the biggest thing I've said is in the next 6 weeks, or I said first quarter, your job is to support sales where they need them, get ramped up on the product to getting qualified on the product. And third is talk to 50% of your time she spent speaking with customers. And I mean, prepping the questions and so forth. So every week she talks to 3-4 prospects or customers.
Yeah. About what?
What they're doing, where they have pain points, what are they using currently, why they're happy or not happy, what is the vendor they have, when does the contract expire, and why are they using them? And taking all this information, putting it as a video, putting it as notes, and putting it into LLM, and putting it into Salesforce also as well. So that way, if we are prospecting them, the sales team isn't going cold.
Yeah.
They have information on that account.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The other side is the PMM now provides value instantly, but the PMM understands the gap between what the company thinks it's doing and saying versus what the audience are thinking and saying. And that's where we have like AI tools for that. Avago, I think, is a recording tool that gives summaries, and she'll make clips and share them. But I wanted her to get ramped up on both sides.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear that.
Yeah. Another tool we use is Subtle. I think it's not like AI, but it does webinars. And one thing we found is our industry, I think this applies to everybody. The faster you can get a webinar on demand turned out while you're top of mind, the higher shot of getting a demo. Meaning our webinars now get out in an hour after they're done. And we email people within 2 hours of the webinar concluding, attended or not attended, with the on-demand webinar. And also sales gets the clips within 2 hours to go reach out to what are the clips to use and what had high engagement and send that out ASAP.
That's fast. That's subtle. It's called Subtle?
Zuddle.
Zuddle. Okay. Nice. Awesome.
Riverside FM, I think, can do that also as well. But that's where the biggest thing I found with AI is like, how do I plug it into my workflow? How can my teams plug it into their workflow? And if we can't plug it into the workflow and they can't explain how we fit into our workflow, you're putting the onus on the marketing person to go figure that out. And that's where things break.
This has been great, Aditya. We covered a lot of ground from your team and team structure, which is unique to you guys. Fascinating. And then we spent a lot of time figuring out how you steer the ship and getting buy-in and all that. But then we also discussed like the customer, incorporating customers into your growth and how you're doing that, how you think about that and your point of view on things. And then AI, of course, the scary stuff, the hopeful stuff. So we covered a lot of ground. Appreciate you joining me on the show and love to see you on LinkedIn, obviously. So if you want to check out Aditya is on LinkedIn, he's at Aditya Vempaty, and I will include the link in the show notes. And then MoEngage, if you want to check that out, go to moengage.com. Thank you, Aditya. This was fun.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. This is why we share and talk on LinkedIn to meet people and have similarities in how we're aligned.
Right. And then we get on a podcast together and chat things through. So appreciate you joining me. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Building with Buyers. New episodes drop weekly, so make sure you're following wherever you get your podcasts. You can find me on LinkedIn, Anna Furmanov. Visit my website to learn more about how to turn customer insights into positioning and messaging your buyers will understand. FurmanovMarketing.com. And don't forget to leave a review if you're loving the show.